The deal is this. Tell you, when I was a kid, that read Dropper Anton Wilson, all this real. Tell you, when I was a kid, that read Dropper Anton Wilson, all this real. Dude, I'm pissed. Dude, I'm pissed. Come on. What do we do? Come on. What do we do? Okay, by the time we finish this, you're all going to be practicing magicians.
I'm Jeremy Greer.
And I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is Days of Future Cast, the podcast where Gary and I talk about all things X-Men. And we're back with more Grant Morrison, new X-Men. Here Comes Tomorrow, issue 3 out of 4. I am super excited, Gary. We're getting to like the crazy end game of this entire arc that we've spent the last few months chatting about. And I'm pretty here for it. This is when it starts getting good.
Yeah, the crazy end game. Emma Frost and some unnameless mutants holding up in a building with humans fighting them while Scott and Beast get knocked out by robots.
Yeah.
The climactic end to New X-Men. With
the last 2 issues.
Bright New Morning?
I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
It is, but with morning spelled the bad way.
Well, I don't
want to know that I was being obtuse.
I don't want a bright and new morning. That sounds terrible.
Well, he's a master wordsmith.
Is he?
It's the kind of it's called irony, sweetheart. Look it up.
How do you? I don't know how to like verbally say citation needed, but like citation needed.
Well, you just use the word. I don't know how to. It's a fucking amazing sentence, Jeremy. I don't know how to verbally say citation needed, but citation needed.
You need a shorthand for that, where you go and everybody just knows what you mean.
Yeah. And then that means
one of those. Yeah, great.
Cool cover.
Yes.
Again, we got the Beast bathed in Phoenix flames with his cool like villain cloak.
Yeah, looking like somebody just dropped a deuce in his cat box. Like, wait a minute, you motherfucker!
Somebody other than him.
That's
Wolverine
mine.
has got to stop shitting in my cat box.
Polyod, get out of my cat box! How many times do I have to tell you?
Morph, I must say, until I have to tell you not to. And we start off with another kind of like, it's not a flashback, but it is another area, because we the Proud People were the European kind of resistance to Sublime. And we're seeing the Pan-African resistance, which is termites.
Yes.
Sentient termites that can like operate Dark Souls levels. Like this looks like Anne Orlando shit. And one of them's ringing a bell. And, but they only speak in like little noises.
I like that they don't really explain this. Like they just say stuff like, like the Mega America is where the X-Men are, and Trans Atlantis is where the Beast is, or whatever. The like previously on section actually goes through all of these, and so we've got Mega America, Pan Africa, Into Europa, and Australia, which I assume is just Australia except filled with my exes, and I am kind of here for that.
Right. All my exes live in Australia, mate. We never actually learned about the fate of Australia in this.
Still out
we get
there,
Europe and Pan Africa. Yeah, Australia. It's sad. They just got wiped out, but they were probably viable. But I love these termite people. And there's one person flying with them.
Yes.
Who we're going to later learn is an X-Men liaison to them.
And so they're talking, they're chittering back and forth when Jean Grey shows up at what has to be the termite queen. Like she is dressed in robes. She's surrounded by eggs. She goes click, click. And the X-Men liaison says Phoenix, and Phoenix basically explodes this entire continent. We see her kind of
pretty wild,
pretty vicious. Like this is the kind of stuff that the Shi'ar get really mad at when you just burn a bunch of people alive. So
the Shi'ar are so pissed. They're all just hanging out in Australia. So she's doing the lotus position in the middle of this explosion, and they're doing a thing I love it when this happens in comics because, comics is not being animated. So it's always going to be a series of still shots. And then like your mind implies the motion.
Mm-hmm.
And this is saying like, no, this is actually still. That explosion from the top is frozen like that. It's not actually meant to be one step in an animation.
Yeah.
Because the skull of Bumbleboy is there trying to explain things and doesn't realize that he's dead. And she's like, no, you're undergoing radical atomic deconstruction. I've suspended it so I can study it, and starts talking to him, like holding his skull. Like, this is great. This is really cool.
This is really interesting. Yeah, I like this a lot.
Yeah.
Also, Bumbleboy. Like, did you pick that yourself or did you lose a bet? What happened?
I love Bumbleboy. Hello Bumbleboy. And then you assemble with Tinder Boy and OkCupid Boy.
Ooh.
And together you form the X-Daters. You form the ex-boyfriends. So she's basically saying like, your body can't handle this, but your consciousness is about to be absorbed into the white hot room, which is some kind of heaven, afterlife, psychic collective of what happens when you die in this world.
We go back over to Transatlantis, where we're getting a bunch of exposition from Beast, who said 530 million years ago, an explosion of outlandish new species, all fighting for dominance of the Cambrian oceans, all gone within a short span of millennia, thanks to me. So he said a lot of years. So like he said, he's been waiting around for 3 billion years. Here we go 530 million years ago, where a bunch of species popped on. And basically what he's saying is that he didn't create, but he set all of these different species up to fail, to fight one another, and has slowly like taken over to be the genetic supreme person. And this is not just Sublime, but like this is the virus that is known as Sublime, if I'm understanding this correctly.
Yeah, the bacteria, which is there to set species against each other, essentially. And it's for villain reasons, but it's like one of these things where sometimes, I go back and forth. My initial thought was like, this is too simple of a motivation, because I like villains with complicated motivations. And then I'm like, yeah, but he's a fucking bacteria.
Yeah.
Like a bacteria or a virus or something like that. Like, they don't have complex motivations. Their motivation is to survive. And he talks about having to do these things in order to survive himself, stop all this evolution and become like, have this total control. And him having this kind of mono purpose and having this kind of patience makes sense when you remember like, oh, he's a fucking sentient bacteria. He's a germ, and then you go back to like that, the arc with him is called Germ Free Generation. Like, there's this whole like him convincing, the human to be clean and stuff like that. Like, that's revealed in this issue or the next one is like a total lie, and he lies constantly because, again, he's a single all-consuming want.
Yes. And it's like this is kind of fascinating because, like, as you mentioned, what does a bacteria, what does a virus want? Like, to survive and to multiply. And like, if you get to a certain advance in a virus, it, walks around with a villain robe and like, creates weird phoenix eggs out of night crawlers. Like, it's just going kind of wild. And it's kind of cool. Like, I kind of like this. Like, this is interesting.
I like it too. And this is him more, dodging Apollyon.
Yeah.
Apollon's like, oh, you promised me the Phoenix graphs. As soon as she remembers who you are and what you did, she's going to betray you. Like, give her brain to me, give me her power. I'm your loyal servant. I should have destroyed all the termites, and he's just like, know your place. Like, he's just, again, he's dodging.
Yes. Poor Apollyon with this, how long do I have to wait for you to make me whole? Like, how many times do I have to beg you to make me whole? Like, it just sounds super sad. Like, this dude sounds like he's not having a great time, and he just kind of hitched his cart to the wrong bus. So
it reminds me a lot of, in Deus Ex, the leader of the Illuminati has the founder of the Illuminati frozen in his basement.
Okay.
And he keeps promising him he's going to thaw him out once medical technology gets there. And he's lying to him. You can find that out. You can go there and then you have the choice, you can go to shut him off or whatever. But it's very similar where he's just like, tell him at once that I am cold and I want to be revived. He's like this old, like, Southern gentleman, Lucas De Beers. And when you go and you talk to the guy, he's like, we've had the technology for decades to bring him back, but he's more valuable to me this way.
Yeah.
And it's just like really straight up super villainous shit. And it's like a real similar situation.
Beast / Sublime tells Apollyon, like, hey, if it was you that got the Phoenix Crafts, like you going back to kill the X-Men there would be no irony in that. Like the Phoenix was their last hope, their great redeemer. And I like the fact that like, and this is the thing that I think every villain has, like they want a sense of irony, or they want a sense of like, gotcha to all of their plots. Like Magneto just didn't flip the magnetic poles. He had to talk about it for a while first. And like, this is this guy falling into the same kind of tropes. Oh, no, I have to make it this way so that it's ironic, so that a dead Xavier will see this from heaven or whatever.
Has to be cruel, you know? So he's making this kind of super crawler, is the idea. He's giving it those feeder traits, that mind worm thing. And that is the idea, you know, and he explains basically, you know, if he controls the gene pool, he controls the future, and he sends his ships towards the X-Men. We switch over to the Institute, and the 3-in-1 is there. They're noticing that something bad has happened in Pan-Africa. They can't figure out exactly what it is. And this gigantic crawler teleports in. He's wheezing, and they say like, oh, it claps both of its lungs teleporting through the shield.
Why would it do that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that. Why would it do that? These kind of reserve X-Men are trying to fight it, and they see its eyes, and people start getting infected by this mind crawler parasite thing that he created.
Yeah, and in the background of this is a telepathic character who I don't recognize offhand. It doesn't really remind me of any other character, so maybe I'm just not putting two and two together. But she starts talking about like, it's just like the time he fell. They all fell that day on the stairs. Like, what do you talk about? Like, I could still smell those stairs. We were so hungry. Like, is this an allusion to? I don't know. Like, I have no idea what this could possibly be.
So it's the we're so hungry thing. Like it's the feeder creature, you know, is speaking for. I do not know what the feeder creature has to do with stairs, though.
Okay.
It makes me wonder if like the feeder thing is an allusion to, you know, whatever. Like maybe that's the feeder thing is based on a mutant or creature or X-Men villain that I don't know. Mm-hmm. You know,
or maybe Nightcrawler was doing some shit in some different issues that we have not read, so we just don't know what's going on with Nightcrawler at this point.
That's totally true. Like Nightcrawler, who is in, I think this was during his solo book and shit. Like it might be some Nightcrawler stuff. You know, it is difficult to say where it came from. Yeah. We switch over to Transatlantis, and you know, this is the beginning of the Beast fucking up, right? Like what's crazy about this is the Beast just got impatient, you know. And that is why he's losing, because he didn't, you know, should not have hatched this Phoenix egg. You know, because the Phoenix comes back, says like the extinction sequence was carried out swiftly. They didn't have a future. You know, they had an inbuilt genetic obsolescence, which is kind of, you know, the beginning of this arc with the E is for extinction thing, with humans having that. You know, so if there's no future, there's no loss. But she says, actually, these creatures are different. Beast did not expect one of the X-Men to be there.
Yes. And
definitely didn't expect Phoenix to talk to him.
She says she talks to the skull, very Hamlet-esque right now. She talks to this skull and says, like, tell the Beast what you told me about the X-Men. And, you know, the skull is very confused and, like, does not have much time before the Beast just crushes it in his hand.
Yep. And he basically says, no, these are our enemies. The diverse, the strange ones, the crooked masses of Mega America, forever breeding and multiplying into new and more lethal forms. I told you about them. They're Xavier's men. And there's this seed of doubt has been planted in the Phoenix. Like, she's like, I think I came out of the egg too soon, Henry. Like, the incubation period is really important. What if I'm not doing the right thing? Weren't you a doctor? And he, at this point, you know, because Sublime is losing it.
Yes.
At this point in a lot of ways as well, you know, is just kind of like, he's making the animal noises a lot. And he's basically doing these villain soliloquies, like, you know, is expressing his disgust with life. You know, these swarming millions, faster, stronger, more adaptive and immune than the last, giving birth to creatures like you. The mutants might become immortal and unstoppable if I left them unchecked. I had to make them fight. Presumably alluding to, you know, the Magneto, like the last arc.
Yeah.
So we go over to our buddy Mermax, the Gambit whale.
The mutant whale. I like this like brief diversion into Assassin's Creed Black Flag like naval combat, and I really want this
piercings.
mod where we've got a bunch of like pirate nightcrawlers shooting a mutant whale that talks with an Irish accent. Like, where's my so-called rendezvous? It's very strange. And like,
I love that the whale, when he's in trouble, he goes endangered species alert. I think that's very funny.
They'll make tallow and soap o me. Like,
yeah. It's really good. And the X-Men have arrived in their Blackbird. And this, I love this as well. They're just like psychic screamers, and they start, doing this psychic assault on all the crawlers. And then they say, "Save the whale," which I think is very cute.
Cassandra Nova saying like, "Whoever heard of an 80-ton crybaby whale" is very hilarious to me too.
Yeah.
I like that these nightcrawlers, like, they have weird wings, and they're also like hooked up to what look like giant harpoon guns. Like that.
Yeah, they got mega harpoons.
It's fucking great, dude. Like they are kitted out. Like they knew the boss when they were going into the dungeon, right? Like they brought the right materials.
So Rover, the Sentinel, comes in and starts smashing them. And Cassandra Nova and Martha are talking, and again, they're old friends. And this is where they're setting up in kind of a sloppy way, revealing this stuff.
Yeah.
So like, she's like, "Oh, well, of course you can still call me Ernst. He was my favorite artist." And it's like, oh, like now we know this is Ernst. Again, just kind of underlining that thing as Cassandra Nova, which is put in the body of stuff, and then became Ernst, and then grew into Cassandra Nova.
And she says that she's in a synthetic alien body that's light years from the nearest bloody spare part. Like, so she, like, that right there kind of tells us why Cassandra Nova is still around and looks basically the same.
Yep. Because she grew up from Ernst. There's this great little bit with Tito and Wolverine, where he's like, "Do I get to do the fastball special, Wolverine? You know how much that means to me?" And then he tosses Wolverine. It's really cute.
Yeah.
But then he says, "Now I'm ready to kick the Grim Reaper's bootay," which I like less, because as we talked about, Grant Morrison slang, not always the best.
I don't know. I mean, like, we're like on the cusp of millennials, so like we both like to eat the bootay, right? Like, I mean, we can say bootay if we wanted to.
Of course, dude.
Okay.
Like, yeah, man. And I post about it all the time. I've got my secret Twitter account where it's entirely about eating assholes.
Yeah, sure.
Like nonstop.
Call you the Brown Star All-Star. Am I right, Gary?
Hell yes. Love it. It's the only thing that matters.
So Rover and Tom are mixing in the fight. We go from, and this is the problem. This is a big problem for me. Like, there's a panel where Eva and Tom are both like in full action mode. He's shooting guns and kicking people. She's got a spear for one hand and an axe for the other. Rover's going crazy shooting beams. And then like 2 panels later, everybody's dead. And like Eva and Tom are giving each other a hug.
He just gave Tom's wet dream right there, man. Can you imagine?
Combining
my Rova?
my dad bot and my fuck bot. Oh my God. Oh, my therapist is going to go crazy for this one.
So he looks over and Tom out of nowhere is like, "Listen, this could be the last day of my life, and I have to tell you something just in case. You saved my life." And it's like, where is this coming from? Like, this is such, dumb horse shit. And Rover looks at this and is distracted, and just lets himself get, bodied by all these crawlers. Until he finally says something other than destroy. He says Tom, which should be really sad. I don't buy this arc, and I don't care about, Tom Skylark.
Who cares? So, like, I don't care about their relationship because you didn't show it to me. Like, all you showed is that they were buds, and that's really it. And,
it kind of, we talked about this a lot, but highlights that disconnect with the character work in this arc, which is just like, this whole reality gets erased. Like, that's the point,
Yeah.
Over to Wolverine. He's killed a lot of nightcrawlers. He secured the bridge. Rover commits suicide, jumps into the water, and Tom takes the black pill, and he's extremely sad and starts crying and asking him to come back.
Yes.
He's going to be really, really sad as this is happening.
Eva starts jerking him off, and he is not in the mood. Like, she's like, get your weird robot hand away from me. I'm just
not now.
Yeah,
not now. But Phantom X used to always like this when he was grieving. So he's like, all my life he raised me. He gave me food when I was a baby. Eva's saying, "Don't blame yourself." And it's like, well, you're kind of being a dick. And Beak Beak says, looks
Tito,
over and says,
or Beak,
"Hey,
yeah.
Tito." Yeah. Tito is his real name. And because he's named after the Jacksons.
Of course.
If you recall, that's what she did. So he's like, Wolverine's like, "You got a visual?" And he's like, "Well, you know that big old bombastic battle plan with the 7 of us X-Men storming Transatlantis and saving the world from the menace of genetic tyranny? It looked a lot better before the sun came up, and there's just like millions of crawlers and this light." And Wolverine's like, "That's not the sun. Make peace with your god."
I wish this was like, that's not the sun. That ain't the sun, right? Like that, because the panel doesn't quite match up with the script very well.
No.
Like, and I kind of wish like we would see like some weird fucking sun looking thing in this, but all we get is a little bit of pink from like the second panel. And like, I know what they're supposed to do. And like, they want me to be afraid of Jean Grey at this. They want me to be afraid of the Phoenix, but it's not reflected in the art at all. So I'm like, okay.
No.
But yeah, the visual of all of the crawlers flying in the sky with like lightning behind it, and all of the ships have spikes on them, even if they don't need spikes. Very cool. Super, super cool.
Yeah. We cut over to the Institute, and the 3-in-1 are having a hard time with this. They're saying everyone defend the wall because they're being attacked, but people are slowly getting taken over by that mind virus. It's not good.
No, not at all.
And as this is happening, the Xavier statue starts crying blood. A little on the nose. Mary full of grace. It's very funny to me.
It's I mean,
it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Like, what are we doing to Xavier here? Like, what are we starting to say about Xavier right now? Because I disagree with all of it. Unless he's just crying.
Saint Xavier.
Yeah. Unless he's got like dry fucking eyes and they're bleeding. I disagree with a lot of it.
Yeah.
But I do like this, like, eat mind, eat meat, feeder eat, grow. And it like starts getting into Cerebra and the 3-in-1. The 3-in-1 shout out, X-Men Emergency. It wants to eat the world and we can't stop it. And we cut over to Wolverine, who's like, "Oh yeah?" And then he's standing there looking at a freshly kitted out Jean Grey, who now has the bad Phoenix symbol on her chest and nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, she's wearing pants, but they're weird pants. It's like a pair of leggings and then also a vagina cover.
Yeah.
Like they're like disconnected. It's just like dark pubes. Morning, Jeannie, I see you came dressed for a tussle, which is cute.
Yeah.
And then the next issue is the final issue.
Yep.
That's the end of this one.
A lot more stuff happening here. Once again, like, I think we're on record for the Tom Skylark Rover stuff kind of falling flat for me. A lot of cool like fight stuff though, and a lot of like cool visuals. This feeder thing is really rad. Like, just the ability to take down like the entire institute from the inside like that, just brute force, is really, really scary. Like, it makes Beast and Celeste Sublime into a completely compelling and like terrifying villain.
It's pretty good. And this next issue has tons of payoff. Like, I really, really like the conclusion of this.
Yeah, me too.
It kind of reminds me, like, the next issue has a lot of just Wolverine and Jean talking. It reminds me of when they were on the spaceship. And that's one of the best relationships that Grant Morrison, really, he didn't create, but he stewarded very well.
It's, it's weird because if you just straight up asked me, I'd be like, yeah, like Wolverine is kind of a plague. Oh my God, 2 cows are fucking in front of my window.
Oh. Yeah?
I guess that dude was that dude was a 3-pump chump. I guess he's done. That was it. That was as long as it took.
Move over.
The neighbors across the street used to have horses, and now they have cows, and now cows do random things in front of my windows now. So like, I just stayed here talking about the X-Men. Anyway, if you just straight up asked me, I'd be like, yeah, Wolverine was kind of a plague on a lot of the X comics because it felt like every X comic had to have him in some form or another. But like, Grant Morrison uses him so well throughout this entire series. Like, it's just the stuff with Scott, like the stuff with Weapon X, the stuff with Jean, like just all real solid work with Wolverine. And very rarely does he like go feral. Like, he only does it the one time when they're getting attacked by the Shi'ar Cassandra Nova infected people.
Yeah. When we do the wrap up episode, we talk about our general feelings of this. Like, it is really difficult for me to tell which is the most improved character for this arc, either Wolverine or Jean Grey, or Wolverine or Scott rather.
Mm-hmm.
His Jean Grey is great as well, but like, Scott and Wolverine are 2 characters I didn't have a lot of affection for that I came out of this arc having a lot more affection for.
Yeah.
You know, I think he gets both those characters in a way that's really cool. So that's it for this issue.
Yep.
This episode. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. We appreciate it. $3 gives you episodes in batches, Slack, and then $5 gets you a bunch of stuff. Then $10 gets you more, and it only gets better from there. And you're supporting your boys. We appreciate it.
I use that money for cocaine. It's great.
Yeah. I use it to pay cows to fuck in front of Jeremy's window. Like,
honestly, if you could just donate some more, I need more cow fucking, and I kind of need some more cocaine to watch all this cow fucking. So if you guys could really, if you could make the Days of Future Cast bump a literal bump for me, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, the cow fucking bump. Get to do.
And a reminder, we're going to be doing our feedback episode. So if you want to write in and tell us your thoughts on New X-Men, if we missed something, or if there's a cool piece of lore that you want us to talk about, daysoffuturecast.com/contact, or DM us over on Twitter at DOFC podcast, and we will read your words on the air. Thanks for listening. We'll be back in a couple more days with the conclusion of Here Comes Tomorrow.